So you're thinking about running, but not sure how to take the first step. My name's Brian Patterson, and I'm here to help. And welcome to Brian's Run Pod. Welcome to Brian's Run Pod. Today we're going to be introducing interviewing Olympian triathlete Stuart Hayes, and I'm really grateful that he's decided to come on the podcast. And I'm just going to be talking about his career, how he got into triathlon. And anyway, over to you, Stuart. Thank you very much for coming on board onto the podcast. How are you? And I just really want to first ask you as to how did you get into the sport?
Well, I started off as a swimmer. I used to swim at a place called Hounslow Swimming Club back in sort of the 80s. I was hyperactive.
Yeah.
My parents couldn't control me. I was always running around the house. They said, we need to take him somewhere that calms him down. Because back in the old days, they didn't have like medication stuff like I do now. It was just like, oh, this kid's got too much energy. What do we do with him? So they took me to the swim squad. And I remember swimming one length. And if I could swim one length, I could join the club. And I did my one length. And then that was it. They said, right, you can come in the mornings and the evenings. So I think I was around 7 or 8 years old. Swimming twice a day, every day for the next like 10 years. And then I got to a point when I was about 13, 14, and I just wasn't growing. I was quite small.
Oh, right.
But at the time, I was quite good at running because at school I was a good runner. I did cross country and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we had a guy in our swim squad called Spencer Smith, and he was world junior champion, and he was about to be world senior champion as well. And I was like, I'd like to have a go at triathlon. So I decided, let's try triathlon. I joined Twickenham Cycling Club. I joined Thames Turbo's Triathlon Club. Yeah. And I was also a member of Ranelagh Harriers and I think Richmond Twickenham. They were like linked together as running clubs. I also trained with that Hounslow running club as well, where Mo Farah trains, and sometimes I go there, be there. At that point, I was like putting all the pieces together, and I did my first triathlon, I think, at Market Bosworth in like early sort of like mid-90s, and then I just went from there.
All right. Did you have time for school then?
Not really. I did go to school, but it was hard. I mean, at college, I used to almost fall asleep in the lessons and stuff. And but it was better that I was calm. So they kind of, mum and dad didn't mind because I wasn't staying up all night and doing silly things.
It was that bad.
Yeah, it was that bad. I took way too much energy, so it completely calmed me down. I fall asleep at maybe 7, 8 o'clock. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do everything all over again. There were times I was thinking to myself, whoa, I'm actually getting quite tired now. And I remember looking back on it, and sometimes I was absolutely exhausted. But when you're a kid, you just keep going, don't you? You just don't stop. So that was my route into triathlon.
So, I mean, like you said, you were, a good runner at school. I mean, was it just you had like a natural talent for it at school, or did anyone push you, or was there who kind of coached you along?
Not really. I mean, I went to a school called Orleans Park, and they had quite a good athletics reputation there, and they sort of encouraged me to do long distance events. I did like the 8-15. Back in those days, 8 and 15 was a long distance.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Pushed me towards that distance, and they were really good. They took me to all the cross countries, and I think I went to the English schools. I was like, I went to South of England cross country. I was county champion and stuff like that. So running was my thing because I was quite skinny, and also I had a big heart and lungs from the swimming. So, and then when I went to Richmond College, a guy called Bill Black took on my training, and he improved my triathlon training. And then eventually I left college and went to train at Bath University. And that's where I met my wife, Michelle. over my training then. Stuart, you're not doing this, not doing that. But triathlon was very new back then. I mean, everyone was just like looking for like a running coach, a swim coach. There were no real triathlon coaches.
Yeah.
But I've always been a good runner because I've been a light person. You know, I've always been quite skinny.
Oh, I see. And that's because of your hyperactivity, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. And it's just the way I am. I mean, my brother was the same. He's a little bit bigger now because obviously he stopped training. But everyone in my family some people in my family are quite slim, especially my dad's side.
Right.
So, naturally, I've been a good runner. So, and I like running too. The only down about running is the injuries, which we're going to get onto later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, because this is kind of like a podcast which is very much for beginners and whatever. And I think a lot of people tend to focus, especially these days now, on kind of the mental health aspects in terms of, you know, helping them getting over sort of mental health issues these days. I mean, do you see that as being sort of quite beneficial, and especially people absolutely that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because I've trained my whole life, I've never been like really low. It's probably because I've always been exercising, so my body constantly has endorphins running through it all the time. So I experience it. But if I am having like a bad day or something's happened, you know, with the family, or like had an argument with your, just go for a run and you feel so much better. So I do agree. So definitely needs to be pushing more people to exercise more if they have. I mean, some people obviously they can't. It doesn't affect everyone the same way.
Yeah,
but me, I found that training would definitely helps if I do have feel a bit low in some way or something's gone wrong. It definitely helps me feel a lot better because you come home and naturally you feel great and you feel happy and you're buzzing but I'd never go a day without exercising, so I don't really. Really feel it like I would have. Actually, there was a time when I had an accident. I was in a wheelchair, and then I wasn't exercising as much, and I did experience lowness. So I did realise then I have to keep exercising all the time, because the thing is, when you're a professional athlete, when you're in the thick of it, you actually think to yourself, "Oh, I'd love to just be a normal person, not train anymore," because obviously you're doing too much training.
Yeah.
But that's extreme. So you can actually get mental health issues probably from training too much. I may have experienced that actually from doing too much. That can make you low because you're constantly tired. But I haven't really felt it when I've always been exercising. But it definitely helped. I would say it definitely helped me.
Because I know it's something I've covered in one of the previous podcasts about the guy who started parkrun. Because it was accumulation of factors that he lost his job, he was injured, and he was suffering from depression. But he liked running with a community, and that's why he started parkrun.
Yeah,
there, you know, the success. So
I mean, I was down there last week, and there was over 1,000 people running.
My God, it's amazing the success is that.
It's got to a point where I might have to start adding extra toilets. Toilets are they're like overflowing.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So it's going to be a problem at some point. I don't know what's going to happen, because that's why I don't think they've ever had it in Hyde Park, because they'd have the same problem. To get so many people going down that they kind of have to make it like a massive event, where Parkrun Bushy Park is getting that big now. It's like
that's where it started, isn't it? So
it's a bit of a game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, moving on from that, I mean, I know you coach sort of, I don't know, quite experienced athletes, but what would you say for someone who is starting out, especially within running? What are the kind of the bit, you know, the key bits of advice you would give someone?
Yeah, well, we coach actually beginners to obviously professionals. Okay. Yeah, we do. To be honest, at this moment in time, I'm coaching more beginners because they're the kind of people that I sort of enjoy bringing through. I would say the most important thing for especially running is going to the gym. That is key. Going to the gym and stretching, or even doing like Pilates. You need some kind of resistance, some weight resistance on your body, and that's the mistake that I made as a professional, as a young professional. triathlete, I didn't do enough gym work. I did go to the gym, but I should have gone to the gym with more specialists, going and see the personal trainer that just gave me like really heavy weights. The gym is so important because I think you need to basically do the whole body. At one point, I'll work on your calves, work on your glutes, but now I've realised over time, the whole body is so important. You have to be symmetrical, you have to be in alignment, your hips have to be straight, everything has to be spot on, otherwise you will pick up injuries.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that, because I was listening to a podcast, the Runner's World one, and they had Jenny Faulkner on it, and she said she reduced her running to 3 times a week, but did 2 gym sessions, and she's a 3-hour 30 marathon runner. Not that, that's pretty good for a celebrity, but she said the strength work helped because it meant that, her arms were strong, her legs were strong, let's say forever. So, when she was...
And the thing is, even as runners, I'd say to a runner that they should cycle and even swim and not just concentrate on the running all the time, because I sometimes I run probably 3 or 4 times a week, and like last year I did a 70.3 in Rwanda and I ran a 121 I think for the half. I had not been doing hardly any run training at all, but I'd been doing lots of swim and bike training, so which is which doesn't cause injuries, because it does if you fall off your bike obviously, or your shoulder or something, but it's less likely. Like just running every single day is kind of not good for your body. So if you do you can throw in like a bike session, you can go for a long ride, you can go swimming. I mean, this is all building up your cardiovascular fitness. So overall, you will be a faster runner, but you don't have to run every day. So I would say to a runner training for the marathon, I'd also cycle as well, especially indoor, like a watt bike or a Peloton or even a spin class, just to do that extra session.
Yeah. Do you think sort of beginners can get like a bit kind of caught up in the I don't know, the science behind running, things like cadence running and, improving your cadence and, interval training and the different types of training? Do you think, beginners can sort of get too, caught up with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone can. You can overdo everything, can't you? You can analyze everything. Well, the main thing I think to improve your running is be consistent, be injury free, and enjoy it. And naturally, you will improve. I mean, intervals, you have to do intervals at some point to get faster, and also a long one as well, especially if you're running over 5K. But the main thing is enjoyment, and also good shoes as well. Good running shoes is really important as well. And we're so lucky these days with all this new technology that's coming out. It's definitely making, you have to be careful with shoes you pick, but running shoes are really important, like having the right shoe for your foot. Because I'm into Hoka. I love my Hoka shoes. And the funny thing was that, so back in the day when Hoka first came out, we went to a triathlon, I think, in Weymouth, the Weymouth Half Ironman. And Nat brought 2 of the same shoes with her for some reason. And I was like, Michelle, you got 2 left foot. How can you go for a run? Oh, she goes, it's okay. I'll just go down to the expo and get some shoes. Anyway, she went down to the expo and came back with a pair of Hokas. And this is when they'd first come out. And I said, oh no, what'd you get them for? they're terrible shoes. They look awful. Anyway, she went for a run and came back and goes, my calves aren't sore anymore. And I went, what? Because this was my problem at the time. I always get sore calves. I tried them and thought, oh my God, this is amazing. This shoe's amazing. And then it just went from there. So ever since that day, I've always used Hoka. And I did notice when I used to go to the races, you'd see all the 70 or 80-year-olds walking around their Hoka shoes. I'd be like, why are these guys wearing these Hoka shoes for? It's because the technology they created.
Really?
Yeah.
So how do you spell it? I've not heard of these shoes before.
Hoka, Hoka.
Hoka.
No, Hoka, Hoka.
Oh, right.
Hoka, you not heard of Hoka?
No, I haven't. Well,
shoes. They honestly, I could do probably an extra 2 hours a week of running because of the shoes. Yeah, so they really changed. They sort of prolonged my career at the end. Yeah. So there is stuff out there, especially these days, which you can definitely improve a lot. Like you've got the Garmin watches, you've got the new running shoes, you've got almost the cheat shoes now that are being banned because they're getting that quick.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Yeah. Yeah,
you've
that's
got
right.
fantastic treadmills, you've got music you can listen to, you've got podcasts. I mean, the list goes on. So when I first started, there was nothing. There was just a stopwatch.
I know.
On the dark streets of London.
Yeah.
A lot has
I mean,
changed.
sometimes some people would say, it's kind of it's so much. I mean, okay, obviously the shoes are good, but we're having I'm guilty of always listening to music and whatever, and then sometimes I'm thinking, well, maybe if I didn't, would I enjoy my running more? But I think because I've got so used to doing it over all these years, it's kind of like it's got like a bit of like a crutch, so trying to get rid of it is kind of quite tough. So
yeah, I think it's a good thing. It keeps me sometimes going out for a bit more, because if I find a good podcast and I'm listening to it, I think, I'll just do an extra 10 minutes. Whereas back in sort of, like if you went back 5 years, I didn't have my podcast or my music, I'll probably just go straight home, straight through the door. So I love all the technology. I mean, I don't use watches so much. I have got a Garmin watch. And I do like when I'm doing intervals, but usually I just go on my phone and just do stopwatch. I actually don't want to know based on running it. I want to keep it.
I mean, well, I use the Apple Watch, so I mean, I know it's not a big, Garmin is quite a big brand in the, for athletes and that kind of thing. So, and I know kind of like, a lot of sort of semi-pro athletes or whatever, they tend to live and swear by it, sort of thing, and maybe, but and I just. So I do find that, I think for me, and probably maybe for a lot of people, is that you work 9 till 5 days a week, and then you try and you get home and you are feeling absolutely shattered, and I really have to motivate myself to put my kit on and get out the door. But once I've finished, I do feel a lot better and I sleep better. I may not enjoy it. I kind of had that bit of a love-hate relationship with running in a way. It's a bit weird that I'm doing a podcast about it, but anyway.
You really love it.
But I mean, would you ever give what tips would you give, let's say, to people who are just sort of like, who are working all the time, and then just to try and get out the door?
Well, think of your mental and physical health. I mean, physical mainly as well, because as we get older, even I'm noticing now, and I was like, used to be called Skeletor back in the day. I could feel my belly's getting bigger. Right. So if you don't exercise, you're going to hit major issues. I do struggle with people that literally do nothing. I don't know how they go on. I don't know how they do it, just do nothing. So when you come through that door, you are tired and you want to get, and it's going to be tough to get out the door. But you know that once you do it, you're going to feel like $1 million. Like you just said, you're going to sleep well. You're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to be in a good mood, and it keeps your metabolism burning as well. So in fact, you can eat a bit more if you like your food. You can have a few treats. Whereas if you literally come in and do nothing, you can't do anything, can you? So
I mean, the other thing I found is as you get older, there's the tendency of sleeping, napping. And I know that I don't do it if I go running, because I'm running. And then, I just find that, it's good to just sleep when you're supposed to sleep, that kind of thing, and rather than napping in the middle of the day, that kind of thing.
I mean, I've also started taking like CBD oil if I can't sleep at night, because sometimes I find that if I train too hard, I'm buzzing. So a few droplets, so that helps. So that's a new thing that all athletes are taking now, actually.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, that's a new thing. So and they even massage it into their legs and stuff like that. It hasn't got the THC like in cannabis. They've taken that out, but it has. It helps relax you. So I don't know if you've noticed, if you come back from a run, sometimes you're like wide awake, especially if you're coming back to work. Exercise does wake you up, but then it also helps you sleep better as well. Or you could do it before you go to work in the morning. You can wake up early, especially in the summer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. Talking about, I know we sort of touched on it a little bit, talking about injuries, and I know I mean, I saw on your social media a few years ago about that horrific injury.
Yeah.
Are you okay to talk about that?
Absolutely. That was fine.
I mean, basically, from as I understand it, you got hit by a deer. Is that right?
Yes, I did. I was out cycling Richmond Park, and I was going down one of the hills, and I wasn't going that fast because usually I'm not gonna lie. Obviously I trained there as professional. Yeah. At some point, I would have done some speeding, but I wasn't actually speeding this time. And I went down, and a deer literally ran across the road and full blast into me, and it just sent me flying.
I landed completely side on.
Yeah, side on. It just came out. So I think it was being chased by a dog or something, and it just happened. Right. You know, when you see something coming, and I thought, because I know that I couldn't slam on my brakes because I'd crash anyway, so I thought I'd just try and like dodge it. Like I headbutted the deer.
Oh no!
Back eyes. But then I tried to unclip, and as I unclipped, I slammed my foot into the ground, and then my pelvic, my leg got pushed up into my pelvis. Which shattered the hip. Usually it's the ball and socket that shatters, but this time it's the actual, like the main hip. And but luckily it shattered all in one piece, so I didn't need an operation. I just had to go around in a wheelchair for 12 weeks.
All right. And your wife Michelle was with you, is that right?
She wasn't with me. She came pick me up because someone said I got kicked by the deer and I was on the floor. I was down there for 2 hours, and then someone turned up and said, "Oh, you can't have broken your hip. You'll be screaming." And I went, "Yeah, okay, well," got into the ambulance. They sort of lifted me into the ambulance. I think it's because it shattered all in one piece. That's why I was in so much pain. Right. And then they went to the hospital and they scanned it and said, "Oh yeah, it's shattered." And then I stayed the night, and the next day the doctor came in and said, like 50-50, would you like an operation? I went, "Oh, am I supposed to like flip a coin here or something?" So I had a doctor as a friend, and I said to the doctor guy, I said, "This is the situation in, what would you do?" And he said, "Ask the guy, if this was you, what would you do? If this was one of your children?" And he said, "I would leave it for a couple of weeks and see how it heals." So I left it for a couple of weeks. I went back there, and the funny thing was, when I went back there, I wasn't booked in. They'd like forgotten about me. And because I was on the paper, a lady came up to me and goes, "Oh, you're the guy that got hit by the deer." And I went, "Yeah, I'm here for like my x-ray to see if I need an operation or not." And she goes, "Oh, I'll quickly make a phone call." And then they made a little phone call and they x-rayed me and I was fine and it just healed. And I was in a wheelchair for 12 weeks and Michelle had to push me around like Little Britain, you know. That was an experience.
I hope you didn't secretly.
And it wasn't that. The thing was, it was just like, it's a boredom really. It's quite hard to sit there and basically do nothing, just watch television, just wait. And also getting around was difficult as well. Like going to the toilet in the night was really hard. And in the bath, I had to put like a little plate, so I'd sit on like a little chair and I showered myself and stuff like that. So it was challenging. And I could crutch, but the problem was I thought if I fall over and bang it again from crutching, because when you crutch and it's wet, it's very slippery. And also they teach you to crutch up the stairs, which I thought was ridiculous. So I used to sort of sit on my bum and sort of pull myself up the stairs. No way I'm crutching up the stairs, because if I fell back, that'd be it. I'd be back to A&E again. So yeah, it was an experience for sure.
Did you swim? Again. Did you do some swimming?
Eventually, I got to a point where I could swim. I also did this one on the hand one, which was good. I did upper body weight. So about 2 weeks, I was in the gym training, and then after about a month, I could swim. With a pool boy, so it was all right. It wasn't too bad. Before you know it, and the thing is, if you keep active, it goes a lot quicker. So I had my routine, I kept going, and then after about 12 weeks, I could start walking again, and eventually I started cycling.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was
Is there anything specifically you learnt? I know you're injured and you're in a wheelchair, whatever. I mean, was there anything you learned about yourself, or I don't know? I mean, or were you just thinking, the end goal? I've got to be in here 2 weeks and then I'll start.
No, I learned nothing basically. That's what it's to be over with. Yeah. You don't, because you can't go anywhere. You can't be doing the thing, and it makes you realise. Actually, I did learn something. I feel really. I mean, for disabled people, it's very hard to get around, especially in London, because it's not made
Right.
at all. But there are a lot of nice people out there. So lots of people come to you and help you and want to help you around. I mean, I know on the news we always see it's always doom and gloom, but if you're in a wheelchair, people are very kind.
So you do have faith in humanity, then?
Oh, absolutely. So, I did see a different side to the world, which was really nice.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Do you have any heroes, or when you were training, or when you were growing up training?
Well, I used to have a hero, Lance Armstrong, but then he got done for.
Really?
No, he's not my hero anymore. When I was a growing up lad, I used to watch him, the way he came back from cancer and stuff like that. But no, I don't. I suppose as you get older, you don't really tend to have. I mean, I like actors. I like watching actors in Hollywood, like Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt. Because they're very inspirational. The way they have to learn their words and practice, and what they go through isn't easy. It reminds me of being an athlete. They are very dedicated people. They go in and out of their sort of when they're preparing for a film. They have to lock into that character. They have to get really early, and I think that's what sort of it's inspirational. And just recently, I watched the Elvis movie. Have you seen the new Elvis?
Yeah, we saw the Elvis movie. Well, Katie, my wife's a massive Elvis fan.
Oh, fantastic!
Thought it was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely
amazing.
I've been watching interviews with that guy, and he has the accent still because he can't shake it off, because he practiced for years. He studied him. He learned all about him. They're the sort of people I look up to, because they're just amazing.
And Baz Luhrmann is quite a good, interesting guy, interesting director as well. He did what's it? Strictly Ballroom, which is a film in the 90s, I think.
Oh yeah, I remember that film. That was a good one.
So but I suppose you're one of the. I suppose in terms of you're one of the pioneers in terms of triathlon in this country, would you say? And is that why you don't really have triathlon heroes? Because I know that, like I said, Spencer Matthews. I remember there was another guy at the time.
There was Spencer Smith. There was Simon Lessing.
Simon Lessing, that's the one. Yeah.
And then we got Alistair Brownlee. He's my hero as well. I mean, the way the guy trains, his dedication. He's still going. He's always getting injured because he pushes so hard. So. Yeah, I've been around the sport almost since it began. So I've seen a lot, and I've seen how it's changed as well, and how people got so much faster. They're really into their technology, which triathletes always have been. So no, it's a great sport, and I've been in the sport for such a long time, because I'm actually going to be doing the Windsor Triathlon this year. And I started racing in the 90s. I started doing that race. It was like my first ever Olympic distance. I started to be going back there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good transition into, about talking about the Olympics, because I was saying to Katie again today is that you're a good example of someone, and I know when you came to my wife's school, of someone who sort of didn't give up the thought of going into getting a place on the Olympic team, because I know you were overlooked in 2004-8, and then and you got in into 2012.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Oh no, I was so happy to be going to the Olympics. I mean, it was like a dream come true, and especially being in London as well. Like I said, 2000, I was probably too young, and triathlon only just come into the Olympic Games at that in 2004. I definitely should have gone, but they said I was too young again. But I didn't think I was. Then 2008, I got double puncture, and that was it. I was out. And then 2012 comes along, and I get offered a domestique role, which is for these two brothers, which were exceptional. So I took it, and amazing experience. I mean, we had over 1 million people watching that day.
Yeah, well, I remember watching it,
Yeah, and the pressure as well, not so much on me. There was a little bit of pressure because I had to look after them, but on them was huge, because I was listening to a podcast just recently with Alistair, and he said that the BBC were going around interviewing people in the morning of the race. It was live on TV. They're having their breakfast and watching this reporter going around talking to all the spectators and saying who's going to win the Olympics, and also the Brownie brothers. And he was just thinking, oh my God, I need to pull this off. There was a lot of pressure that day, but we did it. So,
because his brother got a time penalty, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, Johnny got a 15-second time penalty for, I think, crossing the mount line or something like that, something very small, minor, or leaving his helmet outside the box, because they bring these new rules in occasionally. And if you're not up to date with the rules, or because when you're racing, like, I naturally know all the rules, I just know them. But when they bring a new rule in, which you've been doing something which is illegal now, you can forget to start with. And they brought a new ruling in saying everything has to be in the box. Whereas in the old days, you just took your wetsuit off and left it on the floor. But now it has to go into the box. So you can forget. And that's how he must have forgotten. And he got a 15-second penalty. And I remember on the bike, he was going around saying, oh, Johnny, I couldn't hear him because there were so many people. This is something we didn't practice. We didn't realise there could be so many people there. We wouldn't be able to talk to each other.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So we had no way of communication. But then Alistair, I think, came up to me and said, Johnny's got a 15-second penalty. I was like, oh, no.
Oh, right.
He still got third, so it wasn't too bad.
So you can still take in this information, even though you're going at, the speeds you're going.
Yeah, you can still kind of talk. It depends how hard it is. On the run, it's very difficult because you're really maxing. Yeah. On the hike, there's places where it slows down, it gets quicker, or you're going down a hill. So you do get a chance to talk. And there was an area where we could talk, maybe a couple of 30 seconds. So apart from that, it was impossible because the sound was so noisy. Yeah, so.
I think we've got about 6 minutes.
Okay.
But anyway, I also wanted to talk about, you do share a passion with me because you're really into your magic.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm into card magic as well.
Yeah.
I've got stripper decks, bicycle decks.
Hey.
I've got a deck called the Invisible Deck, and whatever.
I know that one.
Can you tell me, how did you get into that?
So we had a girl on our team called Genya, and I think Emma used to coach her, Emma Pallant, and her husband was a magician.
Oh, right.
I got invited at the London Triathlon to be in a team with, do you remember Jason Bradbury from the Gadget Show?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And Max the Magician. And I was like, who's Max the Magician? I've never heard of him, but apparently he's famous in the magic world. He's called Maximilian. He turns up and he starts doing all these crazy tricks. I'm thinking, how is he doing this? I'm sorry, I love it. This is brilliant because I'm starting to wind down, coming to the end of my career. I'm kind of looking for the next thing in a way. And for my birthday, he bought me a fire wallet, which is it's a wallet that catches on fire. It's really sensitive. And I was like, oh, Max, this is a really good present. And then over time, he said, oh, by the way, there's a magic store at the end of your road. It's called Prop Dog. And if you want to go down there, and he taught me stuff, but they also teach me stuff as well.
Oh, really?
So, it just went from there.
Oh, right.
I've been into the store before, and Dynamo's been in there and people like that. And I just love the magic. I just absolutely love it. And I've been, practicing ever since I met him.
Yeah. I mean, I follow, the YouTube things, and I've even been doing it's my little turn at Christmas. Usually do the odd, card trick or whatever. So I kind of enjoy the performance and why it's done. I don't like looking at magicians, whatever. But I do enjoy watching the performance, and then you being able to do it yourself. It's kind of
and it takes practice as well. And there's
it does take practice, exactly. So,
and a real good magician can literally perform a mass. With Max, you give him a deck of cards, and he can entertain you for half an hour just with one cards. I mean, he talks about stripper decks, and he talks about the invisible deck. They're
that's right,
And he can literally do it with one deck of cards, and I can probably do like about 6 or 7 tricks with one deck of cards, but he can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Because he's like me in triathlon. He's practiced his whole life. The story was he was an orphan. I think the church took him in. He became a pianist, and then he got into magic, and that's how he made his living. He's a natural.
And the other thing I've learned is that kind of like 60% or maybe 70% is down to the performance. It's not so much.
Oh, yeah. Anyone can do a magic trick, but it's how you perform the magic trick. It's funny, entertaining. You got to tell jokes, and that you learn that as you practice, and you learn that a lot. Yeah. And one of the things, Max didn't tell me this, but down at Prop Dog, they said when you can perform drunk, you're ready. Things. You get one drunk and then try and do a card trick, and if you can do it, you're ready. Yeah. That's good. I just want to say, really thank you. I mean, I could go on for ages talking to you because it's been brilliant. But I just want to really say thank you very much for coming onto the podcast. Absolutely. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and then maybe I'll invite you on again. Hopefully the technology will work next time, and I'm sure it's worked okay. Maybe the sound might not be that great, but last but not least, how can people reach you? I mean, you want on your socials?
Yes, so I've got Stuart Hayes on Instagram. I think it's Stu Hayes Try, and also we have Team Dylan Coaching. That's our coaching triathlon business. We train runners, swimmers, cyclists, Ironman triathletes. So we're basically an online training program that we train programs for people, just from beginners to professionals. I mean, Michelle's coached Olympians. She's coached half the Olympic team back in 2012. So we have a lot of experience in triathlon, and that's how you get in contact with us. Just send us an email or send us a message on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah, and then you're on Twitter, is it Magic Stew, isn't it?
Yeah. Magic Stew, on Twitter.
Good, excellent. Well, I just wanted to say thanks very much to Stuart, and I could have talked to him about running and magic for hours. Shame our time was cut short by Zoom. Unfortunately, Brian's Run Pod budget does not stretch to the upper tier. Hopefully that will change in the future. I just wanted to apologise that the sound wasn't great, and as I am still getting to grips with using this fancy new microphone. A few takeaways from the episode. He never gave up on his dream of being in the Olympics. Who would have thought that back in 2004, that in 8 years' time, he'd be part of the GB team in London? What a privilege and an honour. Also, strength training for runners. Maybe you may need to cut back on your running and do other sports like swimming and cycling. This will help reduce injury and make you a better runner. I thought the fact that he may have had this horrendous accident did not deter his determination to get back training. As he said, it was an unfortunate accident and it's just one of those things. That's it for another episode, and looking forward to speaking to you next week with some beginner hints and tips about running. I just want to let you know that you can follow me on X, or what was known as Twitter, at Brian's Run Pod. I have just recently set up a Facebook page which is called Brian's Run Pod, and I am on Instagram at Brian's Run Pod. Also, my website is www.briansrunpod.co.uk, where you can get show notes, or on whatever podcasting app you are listening to the show. Plus, all my episodes have chapter markers if you need to get to different segments of the show. Plus, leave a review, as it will help others find this podcast. Music is Happy Day by Stock Audio, not forgetting artwork by Alice Patterson. Till next week, thanks again for listening.